am so thrilled to be here to close out today's programming. Thank you to everyone who's here with us this far in the day. It's been a really extraordinary day. So I've been following along since this morning, and I just have to say congratulations to everyone who made this happen. And thanks so much for having us. I am Caitlin Peterson. I'm the editor in chief of Business of Home, and I am sharing the screen today with Joseph Aldrich, the founder of the integrated marketing firm, the Cypress Group, and Lauren Urban, the founder of the public relations and communications firm, the
Hello.
consultancy PR. And we're going to talk about marketing and messaging in these crazy times. And I am so glad you are both here. For everyone watching
You
at
for having
home,
us.
for sure.
Thank you.
For everyone watching at home, we want this to be a discussion, not just among the three of us, but also with you. I'm guessing a lot of you have questions about your marketing right now and about how you can get your message out. So use the comments to send us your thoughts and questions, and we would love to hear from you along the way. But to get started, we're going to be talking about messaging and what you as a designer or brand can put out into the world, but also the why behind what you're doing. And with that in mind, I want to talk quickly first with both of you about what your firms do, because I know it's a lot more than PR, and also these days, PR means so many more things than it ever did before.
Yeah.
So can you guys just start, tell me a little bit about the scope of your business and how you help the brands and the designers that you work with.
Lauren.
Oh, thank you. Of course. So I didn't know I was first. Yeah, so we basically touch everything that's related to communication. So that can be brand strategy, it can be key messaging development, executive positioning, obviously traditional, media relations, social media, but certainly our role has grown tremendously and even more so now in these times.
Joseph.
And well, we do some of that. We do again, we do have that gray area where we both do media relations and traditional public relations and things of that nature. But the core of our business is actually in traditional marketing communications, target marketing, market demographics, execution on messaging vehicles, whether it's, events, whether it is, advertising, all of that type of stuff. We don't do social media. We say everyone should do it, which is really funny, which is why we're here. But yeah, we kind of are a marketing communications company in a can, so to speak, is what I say.
Amazing. Well, and in this climate, I'm sure the scope of work you're doing has maybe changed dramatically. And I say, from my own inbox's perspective, I've gotten some really interesting waves of email outreach since we all started sheltering in place. And so in kind of a big picture perspective, I wanted to know what some of the trends you're both seeing in the past few months in terms of how people promote getting the word out.
So when we first talked about this, 700 years ago, aka March, right? There was a lot of, oh my gosh, what's going on? There was a lot of unknowns. There was a lot of, this is what, oh, shoot, we're closing effective, 4:45 today and everything like that. And the big change, really very timely in the past, week and a half, is that we're doing a lot more, okay, we're going back to work communication. People are coming off of furlough. Manufacturing is starting up again in a way, right? One of our furniture companies, their creative director came back to the fact that orders had not stopped for the past 6 weeks, so they came back to this huge back order of furniture that needs to be made. And so it's like, okay, we've been doing a lot of, we're back. This is how we're back. This is how we're taking care of our business and your business, over the next 3 weeks. And we're doing that. We're replicating it in outgoing messaging, some social to some degree, and a lot of other crazy, weird things. But yes, that's my big shift.
Yeah, I mean, I think, we're getting a lot of the same from the brands that we work with on the designer and kind of design firm front. It's kind of interesting because they've been continuing business as usual to an extent. They're still doing installs, but with more of a skeleton crew and that sort of thing. But I think that what's been most interesting for us is just, adapting to the editorial landscape over this time. I think there's been a shift, day to day, week to week. At the beginning, it was a lot of working from home stories and how to set up a home office and get the most comfortable desk chair. And I think that that's still out there, but it feels like the editorial coverage has evolved a bit. I think, we're sort of in this point where people want to see inside other people's homes and seeing what they're getting tours of their spaces and seeing sort of how they live and how they work. So I think we'll continue to see an evolution, and we're just continuing to keep in touch with our editorial contacts and seeing how it all continues to shift. I don't even know if the editorial community knows how things are going to be in a couple of weeks' time. So we're just all kind of rolling with it, being flexible.
I think that one of the really interesting things on that is that it's almost as if, because we're so used to seeing each other, we're all people who, down the block means, in my case, I'm up in LA, I'm back in New York, I would normally go. We are used to seeing each other. And I think that what's happened in almost overdrive, and maybe the past 2.5, 3 weeks or so, is that it's almost become like we're a reality television community now, where, you know what, we don't want to necessarily see how people work. We want to see how they're living and to make sure that they're doing things the right way, which is really weird, because that's the same thing that we always tell our clients. Your clients want to see how you do stuff. Your clients want to have a relationship with you, right? And so now I think that this whole, it's, keeping up with the design community, Kardashians, where everyone's like, oh, look, everyone's in your house. This is what I'm having for breakfast, is really just kind of this very interesting.
Well, in that vein, we have a great question. Do videos for business owners seem like overkill during the pandemic? I don't know who asked that, but I love that question. What do you make of all of the Jeffrey Johnson, thank you. What do you make of all of the programming that has sprung up? And do you see that continuing? Is, all the people who have committed to doing an Instagram Live 7 days a week, in 3 months, do they still want to be on Instagram Live? Is it valuable? And how do you look ahead and figure out what you're supposed to get from that?
I think that we're going to expect that they're going to be doing that, because I think that it has become like part of our communication, right? Which is great, because I think that we as and Lauren can reach up through the screen and slap me at any given point in time. But I think that we finally figured out a really great way to leverage Instagram. It's like, oh, okay, yes, it's pictures, and yes, it's a way for you to showcase stuff, but now you can have a connection with the people on the other end.
And is it working? Does it work for the partners that you're working with who use Instagram Live?
For mine, it does. And again, it goes back to this and then this is where I always say, well, it kind of really depends on what you're trying to do. Like what what works depends upon what your goals are, right? So part of my mantra throughout this, you can't just do things to do things. Like, okay, we're going to do this because this is what we want out of it, right? So to answer Jeff's question, it's like, that's a very broad businesses videos. It's, he's a designer. So as a designer, is a video a good thing for you to do? The answer is maybe, is the technical answer. I don't know, Lauren, what do you think?
I agree with you. I think the answer is maybe. And I think that, there's so many Instagram Lives. I feel like, designers are launching their own, virtual happy hours. There's, showrooms are doing it, brands are doing it, editorial publications are doing it. And, it's also, there's a fine line between doing it and also being oversaturated a little bit. So I think there's, you have to make sure that it feels authentic. First of all, that might not be who you are as a brand, as a designer. Maybe that's not your personality, and you should not force it just because there's a pandemic. But beyond that, but from the brand side of things, I know this is coming more from a designer perspective, but from the brand side, we have a lot of clients who are very used to kind of giving that one-on-one sort of technical instruction to the design community. So like whether it's decor, which is you know, a luxury home appliance brand, or Lightology, which, you know, deals obviously very, you know, specialty in that category. You know, they've been doing a lot of these virtual like cooking demos to demonstrate the product, or it could be, you know, working with designers one-on-one to virtually explain sort of how, you know, what size chandelier they need in their space, or what the, you know, specific aspects are that they can't get from physically going into one of their showrooms. So I do think brands are getting really creative about how they're using technology to promote their businesses. So, but at the same time, it all needs to feel authentic. To do something just to say you did it, it's not the right approach.
And that's very difficult because, you know what, a lot of people, and I'm 55, a lot of people that are in my, you know, box, this is not necessarily something that comes naturally to them. And part of the challenge is that I mean, the upside is that this universe has presented a huge amount of opportunity, right? It's very fast paced because these things come and go, and you know what, there's something every day, and it's like, okay, you can plan something literally 48 hours in advance and have a good showing and have a good result, which is something that you could never do, you know, 4 months ago. We would spend months planning things. Oh, let's have a webinar about how to make
no one has anywhere to go. They have all the time in the world, you know.
And what's going to happen in a month when people are like, oh, I'm kind of going back to work, right? But you know, that's one of the things that I always tell people. So the challenge is you have to kind of do it, right? And you have to find your comfort zone with it, because if it doesn't come off as authentic and it doesn't come across as natural or real, because everyone's been watching it and people are so exposed to it, they can spot it 100 miles away. You know, you only have one chance to make a first impression, and that is extremely true today. So, you know, what's that? Be thoughtful, be planned out, and be yourself. Be authentic.
In that vein, I mean, I want to talk a little bit about the medium in general. There was a great moment in the panel with David Netto and the 3 Hearst editors a few hours ago, and they were talking about the fact that what you put in a print magazine is different than a digital story, which is going to be different than an Instagram post or an Instagram live talk. How do you help your clients navigate what they put where and how they're going to craft the message, you know, for each of those medium?
That's a tough question. Gosh.
Sorry.
I have a very short answer. I'll let Lauren think for like 20 seconds because my answer is really short, okay? It's what you got in the filing cabinet, right? It's what are the assets that you have available to you today, right? Because the fact of the matter is that for the most part, you know, California and Texas and a few other states, if you're a designer and you're involved in construction, yeehaw, your projects have gone on. Not universally true across the country, right? So, you know, how many photo shoots have we all had canceled or postponed? How many, you know, installs? So all of the opportunities aren't necessarily there. So my whole thing is, okay, what have you got that we can use, right? It's like, oh, we have a house that you looked at 3 years ago. Okay, great, let's look at that again, you know, and projects that maybe weren't the best to showcase, you know, you can now feel comfortable parsing out, you know? So that's my answer is always, what have you got?
Yeah, no, and I think that's actually a really good point and something that we've been talking a lot about, because, you know, a lot of the print publications sort of in the major shelter books, right? They're consolidating issues. They don't have the luxury of doing shoots right now, for example. They have things that maybe have been in the hopper, but you know, what comes after those dry up, unless they're only going to feature things where people can do shoots. So, you know, we're actually finding that fortunately a lot of our clients have heeded our advice and photographed their jobs and have beautiful professional images that now, you know, maybe previously could only be used for online, but now print publications, their parameters are loosening up a little bit. So, you know, if you have that beautiful portfolio of images, whereas it was only for one purpose before, maybe now you can sort of tiptoe it into, you know, print in a way that you maybe couldn't before. So, you know, there's, and you know, in terms of Instagram, how that kind of factors in, I would say Instagram to me is, yes, it's great to have beautiful images, but it's also a great way to kind of pull back the curtain and show what's going on behind the scenes about, you know, your process and who you are as a designer and your philosophy. I think people really enjoy seeing that. And, you know, again, it's a personal choice as to how much of the curtain you pull back. You know, are you the sort of person that wants to share your gym selfies, or are you someone who wants to actually show yourself on a work site? You know, like there are both schools of thought in our industry, and you know, it just has to feel right for you. So.
And you know, and God bless.
Sorry. Did I get an image of a gym selfie?
You did. There's like 3 people. I'm like, oh, yeah. but you know, but again, and it just all rolls back to, you know, knowing, and you can, and God bless the people. I would not put a gym selfie on Instagram. God bless the people that are like, oh, amen, good to them. It's not me, right? But again, it's like, okay, I just, you know, no matter what you do, whether it's this, whether it's media, it just really goes back to, because what Lauren just said is, you know what, you have to find a way to be yourself and to be authentic, you know, and put yourself out there. And people are now expecting that from you. And why, you know, what is your goal, right? There are plenty of designers that I have spoken to who 5 weeks ago said, you know what, I'm just sitting this one out. And they just just simply said, you know what, everything that you've said is great, but you know what, I don't really care. I don't want to sit here and have to do all of this stuff. I'm just going to kind of, you know, go to Tahiti and hang out for 6 weeks and just let it go where it will be, because they've been around for a while. You know, their businesses come from and are done a certain way, and they don't have the same sense of urgency because they're not out there, going back to why you do what you do, right? They're not out there designers looking for licensing projects. They're not out there looking for collaborations. You know, they're not looking to bump up their game from transitional residential to high-end residential. You know, they're just designers who are working. They know they're going to work again. I'm just like, oh, I'm just going to kind of, you know, spend time with my kids and do the stuff that I see people on social media doing, and I get jealous.
I mean, is there, if you are a design firm, what should your kind of messaging priorities be right now? And what are some examples of maybe firms or designers who are getting it right, or the kinds of things that they're getting right? So
my answer on this is first going to be, it's really going to be, again, Caitlin, guess
personal, what your goals are.
What are you trying to do, right? This is a great opportunity if you are a designer to put yourself out there and possibly pick up more work, right? If that's done the right way. If you are a designer who is looking to just kind of expand your brand and your footprint, there's some great opportunities out there for you to do that.
We talked about this once before, and I love that you said, you know, you can replicate, if you were the kind of person who was like out and about socially, like rubbing shoulders with people, that there's a way to replicate that online. And that really stuck with me. I think that's such an interesting
as we sit here online having a conversation, we would have, you know, at Legends up in a showroom on La Cienega today, and we'd all have cocktails. And guess what? We're going to have a panel that we're all going to go and have cocktails, right? Just not together.
Right.
Yeah. And so I think it, in my perspective anyway, and I don't know, Lauren, what do you think?
Yeah, no, I mean, look, I think that, you know, it really, again, it just depends on, you know, what you've got going on. So we have some clients where, actually we have one client in particular who they just finished a complete like overhaul renovation of half of their house that started pre-pandemic and has continued through it. She's in the South. And, you know, she was able to continue it. And now, you know, we have beautiful images that we're able to pitch out, and it's great. But I do think, you know, just beyond media relations and communications and all of those things, I do think that this is a really good time for kind of self-reflection for businesses to really think about what is important to you. Who are you? Do you want to be everywhere? I mean, I feel like, you know, before all this happened, we were all going at a million miles a minute, myself included, I'm sure both of you as well. And it's been nice, I think, you know, and we hear this from our clients as well, to kind of take stock, and maybe this is the time to, beyond, you know, all the stuff that, you know, your PR representation is doing for you, but like take a look at your website, take a look at your Instagram, take a look at your clients. Like, do you want to have 1 million clients? Do you want to have less clients but better clients?
Mhm.
Like, really think about how you want to be approaching your business, because we are going to come out of this at some point, and
Mhm.
this is the time where we actually have some quiet, and you can actually, I don't know, I think you can make plans for the future. It's a good time to do that right now.
A great time to do that, actually. And to address, who's doing it successfully. I have some people that I know have been doing it like really well. I know 2 people who have like started business ventures during this
Hmm.
downtime. Um, I appreciate the one that pops to mind is Tom Felicia, who
Mhm.
is on
Hmm.
every day, because you see him everywhere we go, and he's energetic and he's vivacious, and you go on, and if you need Tom Felicia's energy and vivaciousness, it is there, and you're like, oh yay, so
Mhm.
glad things remain the same, right?
Right.
It's
Well, it's a
great.
sense of normalcy. It's like, okay, well, things are normal, and he's still doing his
Mhm.
thing, and and it power to him. It's great.
Mhm.
And something that I really like, for example, I really love Alexa Hampton, Elizabeth Blitzer.
Mhm.
I've been enthralled with they have their little, it has a name, I forgot what it was, but it's like a little coffee talk where they get together and they just talk about business. And it is 2 people who are so good at what it is that they do,
Mhm.
talking about business and life and things like that. And it's really just, oh, this is fascinating, and
Mhm.
it's a great chance, because people hadn't necessarily done that before. We wouldn't be privy to conversations like this. I mean,
Mhm.
even the 3 of us, if you didn't live in Los Angeles in May and we were having this, congratulations, you wouldn't get this information. But now you can
Mhm.
be in Wisconsin or whatever it is and still
Right.
have access to resources, which is
Mhm.
really one of the things. And I had this conversation with a client today where I'm like, oh, you know what? Because they're like, oh, I'm so tired of Zoom presentations. And I'm so tired. I'm like, oh, sorry, Charlie, but that's the way that it is now.
Mhm.
People are going to expect it. So you have to make friends with the digital portion of the world, because you know what? You as a showroom or a business, you have an event in your showroom and you get, 50, 75 people. Life is great. You have it online, you get 100, 150. Life is even better. You have the chance to impart the same message and to give people
Mhm.
the same experience, just on a much broader scale, which is not a bad thing, really, when you look at it.
Right. I mean, the other thing too is, I think it's a great opportunity for designers to reach out to brands and showrooms that they've worked with in the past, and, encourage that kind of cross pollination, working with, for example, I know Schumacher has been doing some really great
Mhm.
content on their social, and we've been working with them on behalf of one of our clients, and he's got beautiful work that he's done that features their products, and it's great content because they can sort of share in their audience together. So I think, again, it's a really nice way to forge connections that maybe you didn't have time for before,
Mhm.
and making sure that you're continuing to stay relevant and top of mind, and increasing your audience hopefully on social media at the same
And
time.
do you know, as a person of my age, I'm just really happy about the resurgence of the telephone as a communication tool.
Right? That is so true. I just got a call from someone I don't even think we've spoken in a decade, and it was so lovely. We had like a 45-minute conversation, and it's a different world. It's great.
It is, yes, because everyone
But
knows I love me a good phone call.
in this climate, though, as there are Zoom presentations instead of cocktail parties and all of the kind of approximations that we're inventing as we go, do the metrics of success change in that climate? And what do you look to now to know that what you're doing is working, or how do you know you're on the right track?
I look, and this seems like really stupid. Again, it kind of has to. It's a version of what are you trying to do, right? You have to find out what your for whatever your goal is, there is a measure of success attached to it, right? So if you're talking about expanding your footprint, you can look at, oh, you count number of followers, you count impressions, you count things of that nature as a way where you can gauge, you know, if your reach and your expanse is growing, right?
Mhm.
That's a tool. And if your goal is to perhaps grow your business, congratulations, you can gauge your website clicks. If you
Mhm.
do direct communication, you can go, okay, great, maybe this is a good time to focus on my, I should be emailing people now with like pictures of
Hmm.
projects and things like that. That's a great way to be able to, going back to what Lauren said about kind of focusing on your business, is figure out what your matrix of success is based upon what it is that you're trying to do, right? Because it's not uniform.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think I agree with everything that you said, Joseph. And I think also something that's important for everyone right now is, I think, again, we're in a new world, we're in a new climate, you know, all those things. And I think that there's got to be sort of a no fear situation right now. And you have to be unafraid to try new things. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. And, you know, Joseph, are you laughing at me?
Here's why I'm laughing. I'll tell you why I'm laughing, right? Because we have a very limited roster, and our clients are, for the most part, you know, medium-sized companies. They're not the fabulous companies that you necessarily, so they're like more, you know, working companies. And I've been telling them the whole time, I've been, okay, no, you just have to go out there and you have to embrace the digital, and you just like have to get out there and do it. And some of them are, okay, great. Some of them are like, oh no, I'm not doing it, right? And I'm like, oh, too bad, you have to. And the funny part is that this is not my preferred medium. I don't do really well with this at all. So my husband said to me, he said, you know, you should probably listen to what you tell other people to do. So I'm even going, okay, fine. I'm going on. I'm going to do all of this now. So I'm like, okay, great. I'm going to launch a little channel and like do this because, yeah, that's why I'm laughing. Because you're like, oh yeah, I know that. Carry on. Sorry. Sidebar.
Well, no, I mean, look, I think, I mean, I think it's all true. There are the normal rules do not apply right now. So.
Do you think the rules are changing though? Or do you think that we're gonna go back and want the old rules back? Lauren,
I think we lost Lauren for a second.
Sorry, I think I got a bad connection, guys.
No problem. I mean, I think to some extent.
Back. Sorry, I don't know.
Welcome back. No, did you hear? So Joseph is asking, do we think the rules are we going to eventually go back to the way things were, or is that kind of the rules are changing going to be what we look at for the foreseeable future and maybe forever?
What do you think?
Me? I mean, it's hard to say. I think I am trying really hard not to be sentimental for the way we did business up until March.
Right. Or do you think it's going, sometimes I think, okay, maybe, and I don't know, this is like the conversation part of the panel, right? Is it going to be, okay, great, we're going to have to do all of that stuff and use all of those processes and all of those tools, and then we're going to have all of this other stuff on top of it now, right? So all of a sudden, to be successful, i.e. to get yourself out there and to grow your business and your brand in any way, suddenly became 3 times as hard, right? So because you have to do 3 times as much, and you know, okay, great, then how do you do that? Because
I think there's so many new things that have been added to, you now have to be so comfortable in all these new ways and on all these new platforms, but except for I guess the in-person part of our jobs all went away, but I feel like most of us didn't lose most of the old things we were doing before.
No, I think there's like more of it. And I think that I still am going to be really bummed if one day I log on to Instagram and Tom Felicia isn't there at 1 o'clock in the afternoon being perky and cheery, because I'm like, oh no, I need to see that, and it's like, and if you are a designer with your business, like, okay, great. So you have to do your work, you have to source your project, do your project management. You were wrestling with the idea of social media before, and now you have to like quadruple that effort. What do you do?
No, it's crazy.
And then there's the conversation. It's like, okay, great. Is this the time that you start working with other people to help you do all of this stuff? I mean, there's a lot. It's crazy.
It's funny too. I think, right now, I think the answer feels like do everything and see what sticks. But I'm really excited to see, 6 months or 12 months from now, what we all think is important and what really has resonated. And as I think you guys, someone mentioned it earlier, eventually we're going to go back to work. And I don't know, for some people that means in an office. For some people that means you'll still be home. But does all of the online programming resonate then in the same way it does now? Or have our priorities just shaken up in a snow globe so much that what matters will be totally different and unrecognizable.
You know, and I think that it's just like, okay. And one of the things that has resonated with me is the role of all of these other people who are industry that we just don't normally think of, right? You know, and I'm currently all hail the road rep for brands and for showrooms, you know, because those are the people who are getting the goods in front of designers. Those are the people who are in their cars with their masks driving around, dropping off samples and memos on designers' doorsteps, you know. Those are the people that have just been so spectacular in my head throughout all of this and keeping us kind of like going, right?
I think one of the funny things you were talking about, you know, road reps, but also just in general, kind of all of the people who can help you develop different parts of the different parts of your business, whether it is someone who's good at SEO or good at developing a website, or, you know, whatever it is that you need or that you've decided you need to grow.
Did we get Lauren back? Is she there, or is she coming in and out?
She's kind of in and out.
We'll just keep going. It's all good. Lauren, come back.
Okay, I was going to ask you.
Yes.
Okay. I was going to ask you, you know, one thing I think that's interesting is sort of contradictory advice that I've heard. You know, a lot of the business experts we talked to really early in this crisis, you know, their advice was basically cut expenses, conserve cash, slash and burn everything, kind of curl up in a ball and survive.
Yeah.
But at the same time, so many of the success stories that we heard, you know, of people who had weathered, you know, whether it was the 2008 recession or kind of other downturns in the past, one of the best lessons I think that they gave was that it's the time to put your foot on the gas, that it's the time to really be loud and be out there and get your message out. And that's the key to success.
If you're driving a smart car, right? And that's the whole thing. You know, a phrase back from my technology days is the concept of right sizing, right?
Yeah.
And running lean, and it's being able to look at your business and know when you push on the brakes and when you put all of the throttle, right? The people who are being successful right now are people who have been through that and they understand what it is. Hi, Lauren, welcome back. But
to move. I'm sorry, guys. Bad Wi-Fi.
But this is a good time if you have the ability to, and you've sat down and, you know, because realistically, I think everybody in March, whenever it was, sat down and said, okay, what the heck am I doing, right? And what the heck am I going to do? And everyone had to sit down and kind of look at their businesses and look at what is they were doing and where they wanted to be on, you know, when this came out, despite the fact that really nobody knew then. And I think we know a little bit even less about what it is going to look like in our industry, you know, in October. I just got the email from High Point, you know, it's like, okay. And so this is a good time to play the shell game and say, okay, you know what, I might not need that because I'm not traveling as much, so I can take my travel expenses and move it over into maybe redoing my website, right? Because the concept of your digital presence has become more important now than it was, you know, at any time before. So it's a time when you need to pay attention to that and move things around, you know? And there are people that can help you do that. You know, if you are a person who wants to expand your footprint, right? And you don't know how, there are experts like Lauren's company where you can engage with them. And it's a good time to do that because I personally am a do it all once and then see what works for you kind of like person. And it's a good time to do that because you have the time, you know? Nobody I know is playing catch up really well. Everyone is just kind of trying to be smaller, you know, and smarter. You know, what is it we always say? We're speedboats. We're
nimble. We can adapt. Yeah. All that.
You know, yeah. That's what.
We are starting to wind down. So if anyone has questions, now is your moment to ask. But I wanted to ask both of you as we're getting to the end, big picture, you know, we don't know how long we'll all be social distancing. We don't know how long we'll be at events in masks or at events in person. But how would you advise designers and brands to plan for the months to come? Where are the places to invest? What are the big questions to be thinking about?
You know, one of the things that we've been doing a lot of in the past, and again, I'm in California, and so California is going through a mild reopening, if that's what you want to call it. You know, it's not a full reopening. So we've been doing a lot of, okay, this is what we're doing, right? Because at the end of the day, you need to know, you know, we're middle people, right? At the end, there's homeowners who are in their houses, and we've been spending a lot of working, okay, this is when your order that you placed in December that you thought was coming in April, that congratulations, it's not coming in April. If you get it in September, you're lucky. You know, these are this is the messaging that we're working a lot with, and really just, you know, planning to where people want to go. And, you know, one of my clients, her retail shop is opening, and it's like, okay, how can we get people back in the store in a world where people might not want to go into a store?
What does that look like? What do you say?
Go to the store. You know, this is a conversation that's kind of relevant, not just to, and then I'll wrap up, to just our industry, but like people in general. You have to give people the ability to be comfortable in where they're at with this process, right? Because obviously this is not a one size fits all solution for every business and for every person. You know, my daughter probably doesn't want to go into a store. You know, she's in New York. She's developed a great sense of people phobia. She's like, oh, I don't need to go into stores, and I don't want to go into stores. Right.
And if I have to take the train to get to your store, I'm not going to be there for a very long time.
So it's okay. So then that's fine. Then we have the stuff that you want still, and we can get it to you, which is one chain of messaging. And then you have the people like, oh my God, thank God I can go into a store. Do I have to wear a mask? And you know how many people can be in the store at the same point in time? And then you have to make them comfortable as well. So the way that you not only figure out how to do that, but how you attack those two channels of messaging, it's extremely different. And depending upon what your business is, you know, or where you are in your business cycle, it's a bit challenging even, and it's complicated, right? So that's,
and you get the one message to speak to both people, right?
We do too. So not, and again,
well, I just say, because you don't know if you're sending an email or posting on Instagram, you're hitting both camps of people, the people who are like, oh, I'm never leaving my house again, and the people who are like, get me out of my house.
And so one of the things that I am is that I'm an old school classic business development marcom person. So our clients actually, we have since day one, we have worked with them to create database and lists, and everyone in it is segmented and everyone is targeted, so that when we know, okay, great, we have this going on, we know exactly where that's going. You know, and we've been working with other people who aren't maybe that far to kind of refine the machine gun approach and be a lot more shotgun, so that you can be very specific, right? Because at the end of the day, the lady doesn't want to go into a store. She doesn't care if she can come in with a mask on Friday. She wants to know that she can buy her stuff online and someone's going to drop it off at her house. You know? Lauren?
Yeah. Since I'm back now.
Welcome back.
Yeah, and look, and I think I would say also for designers, you know, to my earlier point, get out there and photograph your projects. You know, keep doing the work you're doing. You know, we are seeing a lot of our, like I said before, seeing a lot of our clients just doing shoots in a different way. You know, you don't need to have the stylist and the photographer, the assistant, your assistant, like 5 people from the office. Go in there, do it safely. But I think that's going to be your best resource. And then on the brand side of things, look, I agree with what, you know, Joseph's saying about all the challenges. You know, we have clients who have a single store. We have clients who have stores all across the country where some markets are opening and some aren't. So, you know, they've already, like a Design Within Reach, for example, they've already adapted, you know, a lot of their virtual, you know, kind of appointments with their customers. And I think that that's going to be the wave of the future. While some people will still, you know, they'll start to come into the stores and they'll take advantage of curbside pickup and things like that. there's going to still be these people who, even when we open, you know, I know for myself, I don't know that I'm going to be getting right back out there, you know, and, you know, the more I can do things from the comfort of my home, you know, I think that's how consumers are going to continue to think. So we should plan for that to
Or
continue.
they're going to want the option, right?
Exactly.
That's the
Exactly.
whole thing. And it's like, you know, we had a designer client who had a random day with a photographer and has a beautiful home. And much to what Lauren just said, it was a process. And now what had been, okay, 14 people in one house process becomes 4 days with like 2 people each day doing whatever it is they need to do. You know, she's the same designer who does walkthroughs with contractors, and it's literally they do one room apart. It's hysterical. They'll like walk through and yell from the other room.
They have like walkie-talkies.
A thing you never thought your designer clients would need to have in their toolkit, right?
Right.
No, and it's but the nice part is, and I don't know if nice is the right word. The interesting part is that now people on the other end of the camera or on the other end of the walkie-talkie, they understand. You know, they're like, okay, that's great. So this is what we do. We go in on Wednesday, which means that at 9 o'clock at the night before, the house needs to be styled and done because you're standing outside the whole day. And we'll come out and text you pictures from behind the camera. You know, people understand that more. And currently, it seems people are being more patient with processes. You know, hopefully that will last.
We have a question from Troy. He said, have you noticed an increase in philanthropic activity within the design community in the downturn? And I wanted to start by saying, yes, I know we covered it on Business of Home, and we have this amazing article that I'm really excited about because it's sort of a compendium of everything that the design community was able to contribute to over time. And so it's kind of an amazing timeline alphabetically of all of these incredible brands that pivoted in some way to make a difference. But I think I want you guys to answer Troy's question, but I also want you to know, I want to know how did you talk about that philanthropic activity with the brands that you worked with? Because I think that's not just as important, but it's kind of concurrently important with the good that the industry was doing.
Yeah, I mean, go ahead, Joseph.
Or no, you can start because I don't know. You can talk and I'll think. How's that? Let's switch.
Okay. Oh, that's fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah, look, I think that we had a lot of clients who were very quick to pivot and, you know, make masks and things like that and, you know, kind of shift their businesses very quickly. We had other clients who were a bit slower moving and not to say that their efforts weren't as important, but I do think that, you know, this is while it feels like we're very slow, you know, in this you know, kind of at home situation, brands have had to react very quickly. So one of our clients, for example, Rios Clemente Hale Studios, you know, they, you know, that's not even part of their business. They're, you know, an architecture firm, and they were making masks and doing 3D printed
really early,
masks,
right?
and it was so incredible to see how they were able to contribute in a way really early on. And it was pretty amazing to see sort of how they, you know, were able to think quickly and completely dedicate an effort toward that. And then there are other clients of ours who wanted to make donations, and it was a lot of like, you know, kind of thinking, should we do this? Should we do that? And it's like, at some point, it's like, okay, we got to pull the trigger. Otherwise it's, you know, it starts to become a futile effort, I guess, or not as, I don't know. It's interesting.
Not as impactful, I guess, or of the moment, maybe.
I think that part of what I had to do, you know, kind of going through this was kind of like redefine what the concept of philanthropy was.
I froze again.
Right? Or did I freeze?
You're back. No, you're both good.
Okay, good. You know, because our clients were, and the people that I was more closely involved with, yes, and I loved the whole mask thing. I bought a whole bunch of people because I'm like, oh, ooh, really cool textiles. Awesome. I'm not wearing it.
Aren't you glad you'll need them for a while?
Oh my gosh, right? You know, because a lot of people are, okay, what can they do, you know, within their own communities, right? You know, and what can they do for people in their towns and in their villages, you know, their villages, like the East Village, right? You know, and And how can they make sure that the people that are part of their team and the people that they work for, how can they make sure that those people are taken care of, right? And it's not the traditional sense of philanthropy, but it's kind of the same thing, because you're like, oh, okay, let's make sure everybody gets through this, together. And that at the end of the day, the people that we are closest to because let's face back, we're working people, and our work families are equally as important as our other families, or whatever, right? So it's like, and the world that we live in, I live in a sleepy little town called Palm Springs, where we have like a lot of old people and a lot of at-risk people. So there was a lot going on here with people who were like, oh, you know what? Let's get the groceries. Let's get things in the supermarket. And that's what we spent a lot of time doing. And a lot of the clients and the people that we work with spent more time doing, giving back time than shopping, which was fun for me, but
Amazing. Well, thank you so much. I think we are out of time, but thank you so much for being here, Joseph and
Thank
Lauren. It
you.
was really incredible.
thank you for having us.
And thank you.
This was fun. Thank you.
Thank you to everybody who's been here, whether you just tuned in an hour ago or whether you've been here since 9 o'clock this morning. Thank you for being part of LCDQ Online, LCDQ Strong, and have a wonderful rest of your day. But I think keep in mind, as you go through the rest of the week and into the long holiday weekend, what an incredible day we just all had together. And thank you for letting us be part of it.
Thank you.
Thank you.